I never thought betrayal could wear a smile so beautiful. Her name was Emily. Emily Harris. The kind of girl who could silence a room just by walking into it. We'd been dating for a year, enough time to believe what we had was real. Solid. The kind of love people write songs about. Or at least I thought so. Until that night. We were supposed to be going out for a quiet dinner, just the two of us. But halfway through the drive, she casually mentioned a detour. "I want you to meet someone," she said with a strange glint in her eyes. That someone turned out to be Jordan Blake, her ex-boyfriend. And the moment she saw him, it was like I didn't exist. She smiled wider. Sat closer. Laughed louder. I watched her tuck her hair behind her ear the same way she used to when she wanted my attention. Now it was his. Her body language screamed familiarity, nostalgia. Desire, even. And me? I just sat there. Watching. Burning. But I said nothing. Because I didn't want to seem insecure. I didn't want to lose her over a misunderstanding. At least, that's what I told myself. But the truth? The truth was simpler, more brutal. I stayed quiet because I was stunned. Paralyzed. And in that silence, something in me began to shift. That night didn't just humiliate me. It opened my eyes. And from that moment on, I wasn't the same man. Narrator, Nate Carter. Emily Harris wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic. The kind of woman you notice even when you don't want to. She had this confident ease, a laugh that made you want to be funny, and a presence that drew people in without trying. That's what first caught my eye when we met at a charity fundraiser downtown in Austin. She was surrounded by people, charming the room, and I was the guy in the back sipping whiskey, trying not to look impressed. She walked up to me first. "You look like you hate small talk," she said with a sly grin. She was right. We talked all night. I drove her home. And from that moment, we were inseparable. Or so I thought. I'm Nate Carter, 32, software architect, self-made, and quiet by nature. Grew up in a small Texas town, worked my way into the city, built something real. I've always been the observer, the guy who listens more than he speaks. Maybe that's what made Emily's wild spirit so alluring. She was everything I wasn't, spontaneous, bold, unapologetic. She told me early on that she'd had a messy past. "You're not the first man I've loved," she admitted, "but you feel different." And I believed her. She mentioned Jordan Blake only once. Her ex from college. Toxic, she called him. Too charming for his own good. Left me a mess. I never pushed for more. I figured the past was better left buried. But Jordan wasn't buried. He was polished, successful, and handsome in that arrogant, knows he's handsome kind of way. A marketing exec now, recently back in town. And apparently, still close enough to Emily that she wanted to catch up over dinner. I didn't see it coming. I thought we were building something stable. Emily moved in 6 months ago. We talked about getting a dog. We shared closets, weekends, and sometimes even passwords. But that night, with Jordan, something cracked. I saw a version of her I'd never seen before. One that made me question everything I knew about us. Everything I thought was mine suddenly felt like a performance. A lie wrapped in laughter. And in that moment, I wasn't just hurt. I was ashamed. Ashamed that I didn't see it. Ashamed that I let myself fall so hard. But most of all, ashamed that I still loved her. We were back in the car after dinner. The silence between us buzzed louder than the radio. She looked out the window, her fingers drumming casually on the door, as if she hadn't just humiliated me over appetizers and cocktails. "I thought that went well," she said, like we'd just closed a business deal. I stared at the road. "You flirted with him, Em." She turned to me, eyes wide. What? No, I didn't. You're reading too much into it. You touched his hand. You giggled at everything he said like it was the funniest thing you ever heard. You let him pay for our drinks. So. We have history, Nate. You knew that. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. I thought I was your present. She rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic. That was it. That word. Dramatic. Like my pain was theater. Like watching the woman I loved melt in front of her ex was just a scene I was overacting. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I didn't accuse. I just went quiet. Because in that moment, I realized something. Emily didn't respect me. Somewhere along the way, I'd become the safe guy. The placeholder. The one she could always count on not to make a scene. Not to challenge her. Not to walk away. And I hated it. That night, when we got home, she slipped into bed and scrolled through her phone like nothing had happened. Like I was still that dependable guy who would lie down beside her and pretend everything was fine. But I didn't. I sat on the balcony with a drink in my hand, staring at the skyline, and made myself a promise. This wasn't going to go unanswered. She thought I'd stay quiet. She had no idea who she was playing with. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek like everything was normal. Breakfast? She asked, wearing that blue silk robe I'd bought her for Christmas. Her hair was tousled, her eyes warm. It was like she'd erased the night before. I forced a smile. I've got an early call. Truth was, I didn't. I just couldn't sit across from her pretending nothing had shifted. Because everything had. In the days that followed, Emily went back to her usual self, affectionate, chatty, warm. She sent me selfies, little texts throughout the day. Miss you. Dinner tonight? Guess who landed a pitch at work? But something was different. Me. I'd begun replaying that night in my head like a film stuck on loop. Her laugh with Jordan. The way she leaned into his words. Her eyes lighting up for a man she swore was toxic. Was I blind? Or just in denial? I started noticing things I hadn't before. The way she always turned her phone face down. How she never let me near her laptop. The way her mood shifted instantly when certain names popped up on her screen. So I tested the waters. Hey, that dinner with Jordan, I said casually over wine one evening. Would you ever consider grabbing coffee with him again? She hesitated. Why? Just curious. She narrowed her eyes. I thought we put that to bed. We did. But if he asked again, what would you say? She shrugged. Depends. Depends. That word hit like a slap. She changed the subject quickly, but I knew. She hadn't closed that door. That night, when she was asleep beside me, I quietly picked up her phone from the nightstand. I didn't unlock it, I couldn't, she had Face ID, but the notifications alone told me enough. Jordan's name had appeared twice that week. No emojis. Just. Jordan Blake, you free tomorrow? Jordan Blake, still thinking about that dinner. I felt sick. But this wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was humiliation. Manipulation. She knew exactly what she was doing. And yet, she kept playing sweet. Innocent. Like I was the fool. But I wasn't the same man she met a year ago. I had changed. The silence she once relied on was curdling into something colder. Sharper. I began pulling back. Not obviously, but enough to unsettle her. I stayed later at work. Took phone calls in private. Smiled without warmth. I could see the confusion creep into her eyes. Nate, is everything okay? She asked one evening. I nodded. Never better. She stared at me a little too long, like she was trying to decode something she used to understand perfectly. I could tell it rattled her. And that gave me power. It was the first time since that dinner I didn't feel small. She started trying harder. Cooking my favorite meals, surprising me with weekend plans, even suggesting we get a dog again. But now I understood, it wasn't love. It was control. Guilt. A cover-up. I let her perform. And I watched. The more she clung to the illusion of us, the more I planned. Because I wasn't going to yell. Or fight. Or beg for answers. No. I was going to give her exactly what she gave me, quiet betrayal, dressed in charm. And when I was done, she'd know exactly what silence could do. It was a Wednesday night when I found it, the final nail. Emily had left her laptop open in the kitchen while she showered. She'd been rushing to email something to her team. Said it was work stuff. I was on my way to grab a drink when I saw the mail tab still open. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. And what I found shattered the last thread of doubt I was clinging to. There was an email chain with Jordan. Not just polite check-ins. Not just old friends reconnecting. It was emotional. Flirtatious. And worse, ongoing. She'd told him she missed the way he challenged her. That she sometimes wondered if breaking up had been a mistake. That she felt boxed in lately. Jordan responded exactly how I expected. I still think about you more than I should. Let's talk in person. No pressure. And then her reply, from just 3 days ago. Let me check Nate's schedule. That line burned into my brain. I wasn't her boyfriend anymore. I was her alibi. I closed the laptop, walked back to the living room, and sat in silence as she stepped out of the shower minutes later, hair damp, smile soft. She kissed me. Asked what movie I wanted to watch. And I realized something right then. She wasn't confused. She wasn't lost or emotionally torn. She was calculated. She was playing both sides, using my loyalty as a shield while she slipped back into old habits. But she'd underestimated one thing. I wasn't that loyal anymore. And now that I knew the game, I was ready to flip the board. After reading that email, something inside me switched off. Not just the love, but the part of me that used to defend her in my head. The part that explained away her behavior, softened her sharper edges. That part was gone. Now I watched her like a stranger, analyzing every move, every glance, every smile. Emily sensed the change. She started hovering more, checking in, asking more questions than usual. Are you okay? You seem distant. Is something going on? I played my role. I smiled. Said I was just stressed from work. She offered massages, takeout, even sex, like physical affection could wipe away emotional rot. But I wasn't interested in comfort. I was interested in clarity. So I started collecting pieces. I confirmed she had lunch with Jordan again. She lied about it, said she was meeting a client downtown. But I followed her. Sat 2 tables away at a small Thai place. Watched her laugh the same way she did with me once. When they left, Jordan walked her to her car. She touched his chest, leaned in close, her lips brushing his cheek, too close for just friends. I snapped a photo. I didn't confront her. Instead, I began my own plan. I started distancing slowly, subtly. Took business trips I didn't need to take. Ignored her texts for hours. Removed her from my shared calendar. Little cuts that added up. She noticed. Do you still love me? She asked one night, her voice trembling. I looked at her, eyes steady. Of course. A lie. Because what I felt now wasn't love, it was cold, sharp clarity. I began seeing someone else. Her name was Lena, a friend of a friend. We started as just coffee, small talk, nothing serious. But Lena was smart, grounded, and honest. The kind of woman who asked real questions and listened for real answers. It wasn't about revenge, not entirely. It was about remembering what respect looked like. But I didn't tell Emily. Not yet. I wanted her to stew in her uncertainty the way I had. I wanted her to feel the erosion of control, the unsettling shift of power. She started spiraling. Checking my location. Asking to see my phone. Crying randomly, accusing me of pulling away. And I gave her nothing. Just more calm smiles. More silence. One night, she cornered me in the kitchen. "Nate, if there's something going on, just tell me." I looked at her, really looked. This woman who once made me feel like I could be enough. Now grasping for something she thought she'd never lose. "There's nothing going on," I said softly. Another lie. But I wanted her to confess first. To crack. So I waited. 2 days later, I got an opportunity handed to me on a silver platter. She left her phone unlocked on the couch. I didn't hesitate. I took screenshots of every message with Jordan. Every lie. Every plan to see him again soon. She'd even called me emotionally checked out, in one of them. Said she didn't know how much longer she could do this. Perfect. I transferred the screenshots to my email. Stored them. Kept quiet. That weekend, I planned a getaway, one of those spontaneous road trips she used to beg for. We drove out to a quiet cabin by Lake Travis. Just the two of us. She thought it was a rekindling. I knew it was the beginning of the end. We made dinner together. Played cards. Watched a movie. She kissed me like she meant it. And for a moment, I almost fell back in. Almost. But that night, while she slept, I drafted an email. To Jordan Blake. Subject, thought you should know. Body. Not sure what she's been telling you, but I've known about you for weeks. She plays us both. Thought you should see the attached screenshots before you buy into whatever fantasy she's selling. Attached, every message. Every photo. I hit send. Then I packed my things. Quietly. Without a sound. I left a note on the table for her. You were right. I stopped feeling like myself in this relationship. But that's because I finally saw you clearly. I drove off before sunrise. She showed up at my apartment 3 days later. Hair wild, eyes swollen, fury stitched into every word. You sent him the messages, she spat the moment I opened the door. Are you serious, Nate? I stepped aside, calm as ever. Come in. Yell properly. She stormed past me, tossing her bag onto the couch like it was mine to catch. What the hell is wrong with you? You invaded my privacy, you went behind my back. I held up a hand. Stop. She froze. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water. Took my time. Then I turned to her. You flirted with your ex in front of me. Lied about meeting him again. Called me checked out. Told him you didn't know how much longer you could fake it. And I'm the one who crossed a line. She stared at me, blinking. Her lips parted but no words came. I continued. You treated my trust like a game, Emily. And the worst part? You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I'd just sit there and take it. Her face crumpled, but I didn't care. Not now. I gave you everything, I said, voice rising now. I defended you to myself. Ignored every red flag. And you were setting up your exit plan while sharing my bed. Tears welled up in her eyes. It wasn't like that, Nate. Then tell me what it was like. I leaned in. Tell me what you were doing with him behind my back. Tell me why you felt the need to lie every step of the way. I was confused, she shouted. You changed. You became distant. After you humiliated me in front of him. I snapped. I watched you, Emily, I watched you become someone else when he walked in the room. Like I was nothing. She sank onto the couch, holding her head in her hands. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did. Silence fell between us. Finally, she looked up, voice trembling. What happens now? I exhaled. Nothing. I'm done. She flinched. Done. Completely. I walked over to the door and opened it. She didn't move. I loved you, she whispered. No, I said. You loved control. You loved being worshipped. You didn't want a partner, you wanted a stage. Her eyes widened. She looked like she'd been slapped. I stood there, hand on the doorknob, no longer angry. Just, done. I hope you figure yourself out, I added. But I won't be your safety net while you do. She got up slowly, grabbing her bag with shaky hands. At the doorway, she paused. I never thought you'd leave. That's the thing about quiet men, I said. We only need to be hurt once to become someone you don't recognize. She opened her mouth, but I'd already shut the door. It's been 4 months since I closed that door on Emily Harris. The silence afterward was the loudest I've ever known. At first, I kept expecting her to come back. Not physically, but digitally, a text, an email, a long-winded message explaining herself, begging for a second chance, trying to justify it all. But nothing came. I later found out from a mutual friend that Jordan cut her off the day after I sent him the screenshots. Apparently, his ego didn't take well to the idea of being the side piece. Go figure. She tried reaching out to him, but he blocked her. From what I heard, she stopped showing up at work for a while. Said she was re-evaluating her life. I didn't take joy in her unraveling. That's not the kind of man I am. But I also didn't lift a finger to help. She chose her path. I just lit it clearly enough for her to see where it led. As for me, I started over. It wasn't easy, unlearning someone you built your world around never is. There were days I questioned myself, wondered if I'd been too cold, too calculating in how I handled it. But every time I reread her messages, every time I remembered that night at the restaurant, how invisible she made me feel, I knew I had done the right thing. Lena and I are still talking. Slowly. No expectations. No grand promises. She knows what I've been through, and she doesn't try to fill that space. She just shows up, as herself, authentic, unpolished, real. And that's enough. You see, what I learned through all this is that betrayal doesn't always come with shouting and door slams. Sometimes it walks in with a smile, sits beside you at dinner, and holds your hand while thinking about someone else. Sometimes it tests you to see how much self-respect you're willing to give up in the name of understanding. I gave too much. But never again. Now, I listen to the quiet inside me. The version of me that finally stopped excusing red flags just because they were dressed in blue eyes and silk robes. I don't hate Emily. I think, in her own broken way, she was trying to chase something she never fully understood, validation, maybe. Freedom. Nostalgia. But none of that excuses what she did. And now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see the man who sat there swallowing his pain while his girlfriend flirted with another man. I see the man who walked away before he forgot what it meant to matter. I used to think silence was weakness. That real strength meant holding on, staying composed, letting things slide to keep the peace. That's what I did that night at the restaurant, sat quietly while Emily flirted with her ex, convincing myself it was just a rough patch, that it'd pass. But now I know better. Silence can be strength, but only when it's deliberate. When it's the calm before a storm you choose to unleash, not the muzzle someone else puts on you. Emily thought I'd stay quiet forever. That I'd take her betrayal like a man too passive to fight back. Too in love to walk away. But I did walk away. Not with a dramatic exit or a burning bridge. Just a quiet, clean break. The kind that cuts deep not because of how loud it is, but because of how final. And that's what closure really is. Not a conversation. Not an apology. Just the moment you stop bleeding for someone who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. I don't carry bitterness. I carry lessons. The biggest one. When someone shows you who they are, don't wait for the encore. Believe it the first time. And when you feel yourself shrinking in love just to fit someone else's chaos, walk away. Let them miss the version of you they thought would never leave. Let them sit with the silence they created. Because the quiet doesn't mean you're weak. Sometimes, it means you're done. And that's the loudest thing you'll ever say.